As the plane ascended, Nathaniel gazed out the window, watching as the Cole Air logo glimmered on the wing. Washington grew smaller beneath him, and from above, the patterns and systems became clear. It was these very systems that he had dared to confront, and change. Not through destruction, but through transformation. Not to tear down, but to elevate and rebuild. The flight continued westward, and Nathaniel gently closed his eyes, his heart at peace. This wasn't the end of a journey. It was the beginning of a legacy. True power doesn't lie in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to transform. The story of Nathaniel Cole reminds us that justice isn't about revenge, but about creating a world where everyone belongs. After the thunderous applause at the school, Nathaniel stood still in the courtyard, his heart swelling with emotion. This was the reason he founded Cole Dynamics. Not for power. Not for revenge. But to transform the system, to create lasting change that goes beyond himself. On the plane, as he prepared to leave Chicago, Nathaniel gazed quietly at the data screen, reflecting the impact of the initiatives he had just announced. The event had spread across social media, with the press calling it the perfect closing move of a man who turned injustice into a legacy. The story of the orphaned boy who once sat on the steps of the foster home, sketching complex mathematical models. Now a symbol of intellect, justice, and change. 3 days later, Nathaniel boarded the first official flight of Cole Air, the Washington, San Francisco route. He entered the first-class cabin. Everything was completely different. The diverse crew treated every passenger with fairness. The cabin had been redesigned, prioritizing comfort, accessibility for the disabled, and respect for all. A flight attendant approached. Flight attendant. It's an honor to serve you today, Mr. Cole. Nathaniel, smiling. Thank you, the honor is mine. After the ceremony, Nathaniel met privately with Helen Voss, who had once been the COO and was now officially appointed as the CEO of Cole Air. Nathaniel, congratulating. The board has approved the decision. Congratulations, Helen. Helen, emotionally. A year ago, I was blocked at every turn under Charles. Now, I'm running the whole company. Nathaniel. You were always the right person for the role. It's just that Charles never saw it. Helen. And what about you? What's next for you? Nathaniel, smiling. There are still many systems to change. Meanwhile, in federal court, Charles Whitmore accepted a plea deal. 15 years in prison reduced to 7 years if he cooperated with the investigation into Regalis. As he was escorted out of court, a reporter called out. Reporter. Do you have any comments on the launch of Cole Air today? Charles, angrily, silent. That evening, at an internal ceremony, Leah Okoro, the head of security at Cole Dynamics, was appointed as the new COO of the entire company. Nathaniel, handing over the symbolic key. Your loyalty and talent deserve to be recognized. You've stood by me from the very beginning. Leah, smiling rarely. Justice doesn't always come quickly, but it will come. 2 weeks later, Nathaniel's private jet landed in Southside Chicago, where he grew up. He walked through the familiar streets, bringing back memories of a difficult childhood, foster care, racial violence, notebooks filled with formulas that no one could understand. Nathaniel, standing in front of his old elementary school. This is where it all began. Principal Dr. Angela Williams, welcoming him. Thank you for coming back. The students are so excited to meet you. At the school assembly, Nathaniel addressed hundreds of students. Nathaniel. I once sat where you're sitting now, dreaming of a future that seemed impossible. Today, I'm here to tell you, nothing is impossible if we have talent, opportunity, and the will to persevere. He announced the establishment of the Cole Technology Center, a scholarship fund, and a mentorship network, a total investment of $50 million in the community. Nathaniel. This is not charity. This is an investment, in you, in your potential, and in our shared future. Sitting in the front row, Jamal Barnes fought back tears of emotion. From an overlooked intern, he was now a standout participant in Cole Dynamics' management program. Nathaniel, introducing Jamal. He is a living testament to what we are building here. Jamal, stepping up to the podium. My story began with a simple action, recognizing injustice and refusing to stay silent in the face of it. But it's also about realizing potential, both in ourselves and in a system we thought couldn't be changed. The camera panned to the new leadership team, made up of diverse, determined faces. Erica, now the head of customer experience and fairness. Victor Grant, accepting the role of Cole Air's new head of security. After the ceremony, guests were invited to tour Cole Air's first aircraft, a new design, more human-centered, comfortable, and accessible than ever before. Nathaniel, quietly stepping outside, gazing at the plane under the sky. We've started over. And this time will be a better future. Nathaniel, continuing. We don't rise for ourselves. We rise so those who come after us don't have to start from scratch, like we once had to. Nathaniel, looking at Jamal, sincerely. Someone gave me a chance when I was younger than you. Now, it's my turn to pass that opportunity forward. Meanwhile, at Regalis headquarters. Erica was unexpectedly summoned to the office of Helen Voss, the newly appointed interim CEO of Regalis. Erica, nervously. Did I do something wrong? Helen, smiling reassuringly. Quite the opposite. I want to personally thank you for your courage in speaking up about Sandra McKe and Mr. Cole. Helen, seriously. Regalis is about to undergo a major transformation. I've been tasked with establishing the Ethics and Customer Experience Department, empowered to eliminate discrimination. And I want you to be part of it. Erica, stunned. Me? But I'm just a ticket agent. Helen. You're someone who knows right from wrong and has the courage to act. That's exactly what we need right now. Meanwhile, Sandra McKe was meeting with her lawyer. They were preparing a lawsuit for wrongful termination, arguing that she had only followed the company's unwritten policies on passenger checks. Sandra, angrily. I was just doing what they've always expected of me. They can't put all the blame on me. Lawyer, seriously. The problem is the company has sent us a series of pieces of evidence. Videos, passenger complaints, internal evaluations, they're all against you. Lawyer, warning. They're even preparing a counterclaim, demanding compensation for the millions of dollars your actions have cost the company. Sandra, pale. No way. I've worked there for 15 years. Lawyer, softly. And now you may lose it all if you continue with this lawsuit. At the same time, the Regalis board was holding an emergency meeting to vote on the acquisition proposal from Cole Dynamics. The debate was intense. Some opposed. This is exploitation in a crisis. Another rebutted. We caused the crisis. If we don't accept, bankruptcy is likely. Helen Voss spoke up. Nathaniel Cole built an empire based on ethics and innovation. His reputation is flawless. We can't say the same about our current leadership. Finally, the vote outcome, 11 in favor, 3 against. Regalis Airways officially accepted the buyout proposal from Cole Dynamics. News of the deal quickly spread. Financial experts commented on television. CNBC commentator. This is unprecedented. A tech company like Cole Dynamics taking over a major airline. This will forever change the aviation industry. In federal detention, Charles Whitmore received the news from his lawyer. His face turned purple as he heard the announcement. Lawyer, coldly. Cole Dynamics now holds controlling shares of the company. Charles, shouting. No way. Cole hasn't won yet. Lawyer. You should be more concerned about saving yourself. The federal prosecutor has offered to reduce your sentence to 7 years if you cooperate in the investigation of Regalis's financial activities. Meanwhile, at Cole Dynamics headquarters, Nathaniel was meeting with the senior executive team. CFO. Regalis's corporate culture is very different from ours. The transition will be extremely complex. Nathaniel, decisively. That's exactly why we need to do this. Not just to take their flight network and assets, but to reform an industry that's been stagnant for far too long. CMO. Should we keep the Regalis name? Nathaniel, shaking his head. No. That name is tainted. We need a new identity, something that reflects this transformation. CMO. Cole Air sounds good. Nathaniel, smiling. Cole Air, where everyone belongs. 3 months later, Cole Air officially launched at Washington Airport, the site of the previous racial discrimination incident. The grand event drew thousands of people and media coverage. Nathaniel, on the podium. Today is not just the birth of a new airline, but the birth of a new vision, that every passenger, every employee, every person deserves to be treated with respect. He continued. We commit to mandatory diversity and fairness training for all employees. An anonymous feedback system for both customers and staff. A scholarship program for students from underserved communities to visit potential universities. Charles's driver took him to the Cole Dynamics headquarters, a modern building made of glass and sustainable materials, glowing brightly even under the gray sky. In stark contrast to the lavish Regalis headquarters in Atlanta, Cole's building radiated elegance, modesty, yet undeniable power. The receptionist greeted him. Mr. Whitmore, please take a seat. Mr. Cole is aware of your arrival. Charles replied. I have an appointment at 10 a.m. By 11:30, he was growing impatient, pacing the lobby. Charles, snapping at the receptionist. I'm the CEO, not some salesman waiting around. A cold voice came from behind. Former CEO. Leah Okoro stepped forward, surveying him as though he were invisible. Leah. Mr. Cole will meet you now. They stepped into the elevator, where Charles continued to grumble. Charles. This is how Cole operates. Keeping people waiting for hours. Leah, coldly. Mr. Cole's time is valuable. You, on the other hand, are becoming less so by the minute. The elevator doors opened to Nathaniel's office, spacious, modern, with a panoramic view of San Francisco Bay. Charles. I appreciate you arranging this meeting. I think we can resolve this in a mutually beneficial way. Nathaniel, calmly. Please, take a seat, Charles. Charles. Listen, I admit the incident at the airport was a mistake. We've fired the involved employee. I'm apologizing. What more do you want? Nathaniel. I want accountability, not just for one incident, but for the entire system. Charles, irritated. Don't bring your social justice nonsense into this. This is business. Name your price. Nathaniel, pressing a button. A holographic screen appeared, displaying the structure of Regalis, highlighting areas in red: fraud, discrimination, false reporting, money laundering. Nathaniel. This is what my investigation uncovered, Charles. I have documented proof for every point. Charles, furious. That's internal documentation. You hacked us, that's corporate espionage. Nathaniel. Is what you care about the fact that I obtained evidence of your crimes, not the crimes themselves? Charles. What do you want? Nathaniel. Cole Dynamics is interested in buying Regalis Airways, $20 per share. Charles, laughing derisively. That's a third of the stock price from last week. Nathaniel. But it's double the current price, and far more than what it'll be worth once the indictments are made public. Charles, lowering his voice, looking for an escape. If I help facilitate this deal, what's in it for me? Nathaniel. The chance to avoid federal prison. Nathaniel continued. I have enough evidence to put you away for decades. If you cooperate, sign a confession, help with the investigation, I'll ensure it's noted that you helped expose Regalis's wrongdoings. Charles. You expect me to destroy myself? Nathaniel. I expect you to face reality. Your empire has already crumbled. The only question left is, do you want to be buried with it, or not? Charles stood up abruptly. This meeting is over. My lawyer will be in touch. You haven't heard the last from me, Cole. Nathaniel, calmly. I've already arranged a car to take you to the FBI headquarters. They're eager to have a chat with you, about the accounts in the Cayman Islands. Charles, turning around, shocked. You wouldn't dare. Nathaniel, calmly. I already have. The elevator doors opened. 2 FBI agents were waiting. Agent. Charles Whitmore. Please come with us. Leah entered from the side door after Charles was escorted away. Leah. Just as predicted. Nathaniel. Of course. People like Charles always think they're the smartest in the room, until they realize they've lost everything. Leah, checking her tablet. Charles ordered Ethan Ross to stage a financial scandal to smear you. But we intercepted it just in time. Nathaniel. Evidence. Leah. Fake documents sourced from Ross's laptop. The FBI already has a copy. Nathaniel. And the board? Leah. Helen Voss is quietly gathering support. With Charles under federal investigation, I suspect they'll vote in favor of our proposal within 24 hours. At the same time, in a simpler setting. Jamal Barnes was escorted into a private meeting room at Cole Dynamics's recruitment center. He had received an anonymous invitation with the cryptic message, "Let's discuss your future." The door opened. Nathaniel walked in. Jamal, standing up quickly. Mr. Cole. I didn't expect to meet you personally. Nathaniel, smiling. Sit down, Jamal. Call me Nathaniel. Jamal. I don't understand, why am I here? Nathaniel. Because you showed courage when it mattered. You saw the injustice and didn't stay silent, even when it could cost you. Nathaniel pushed a folder toward Jamal. Inside was an official job offer for Cole Dynamics's management training program, with a salary that left Jamal stunned. Jamal. I don't have enough experience for this. Nathaniel. Experience can be learned. Character takes a lifetime to build. And you've proven that. William Freeman, a senior board member, countered. The question is not who's attacking us, Charles. It's whether these allegations are true. Did you authorize the transfer of funds overseas to hide them from shareholders and regulators? Charles. This is ridiculous, Charles's assistant burst into the room, handing him a tablet. Sir, you need to see this. On the screen was an email from Charles's personal account, sent to Bradley Winston, discussing how to conceal maintenance issues with Boeing 737s and threatening the safety whistleblower. Charles turned pale. This has been edited. William, sternly. A digital forensics expert can verify the authenticity. If even half of this is true, we're not just facing civil penalties, we're looking at criminal charges. The board immediately began discussing the suspension of Charles. Meanwhile, Nathaniel was in a meeting with the executive team at Cole Dynamics. CFO. Regalis's stock dropped 47% in just one day. They're on the brink of collapse. Another executive. They deserve the consequences of their actions. Nathaniel. No company deserves to collapse if they have tens of thousands of innocent employees. Regalis has over 28,000 employees nationwide. They're not to blame for the corruption at the top. CFO. What are you getting at? Nathaniel, smiling. I believe Regalis is about to become a very attractive investment. That evening, as federal agents began seizing documents from Regalis's offices, Nathaniel held a private meeting with the minority shareholders of Regalis. Nathaniel. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have a common interest, saving what we can from Regalis. One investor cautiously asked. Given what's happened, some might think you're acting out of revenge. Nathaniel, calmly. On the contrary. I see opportunity, where others only see ruin. Regalis has a strong flight network, valuable airport slots, and thousands of skilled employees. What they lack are ethics and leadership. Another shareholder asked. Are you planning to buy them out? Nathaniel. Not buy, transform. Cole Dynamics will acquire controlling shares at a premium of 50% over the current stock price. One shareholder objected. That's predatory. Another shareholder rebutted. That's business. And honestly, it's probably the only option to prevent the company from completely collapsing. Nathaniel, continuing. I propose a legally binding commitment, maintaining the workforce for at least 2 years, and investing in both system and corporate culture reform. While the shareholders debated, Erica was meeting Leah Okoro at a quiet cafe. Leah. Sandra McKe has filed a wrongful termination lawsuit. She says she was just following the company's unwritten policy on passenger checks. Erica sighed. Do I need to testify? Leah. Most likely. But we've gathered evidence from 12 other incidents involving McKe. You won't be alone. Erica. What will happen to Regalis? Leah, calmly. That depends on the decisions being made right now. But I can tell you this, Nathaniel Cole doesn't want to destroy anyone's life. He just wants justice and change. That evening, as Charles Whitmore was escorted out of Regalis headquarters and suspended, he received a surprise video call from Nathaniel Cole. Charles, bitterly. Here to gloat. Nathaniel, calmly. No. I'm here to show you my perspective. Today may be the end for you, but it's the beginning of transparency. Charles. You've destroyed everything I built. Nathaniel. No. You destroyed it. I'm just exposing the truth. Charles. What do you want? Nathaniel. Tomorrow, I'll meet with your board to discuss Cole Dynamics acquiring controlling shares in Regalis Airways. A new chapter is beginning. Charles sat stunned as the call ended. At the same time, Leah sent a message. Federal agents just raided Whitmore's house. It started. Nathaniel, quietly. Let the empire fall, so we can build something better. Charles Whitmore's private jet landed in San Francisco in the heavy rain, a perfect metaphor for his grim mood. 3 days had passed since his suspension as CEO, and Regalis's stock continued to plummet. His personal accounts were frozen, awaiting SEC investigation. The meeting with Nathaniel Cole was not initiated by him, but forced by the board, desperate to show a willingness to cooperate in this dire situation. CNN, breaking news. Regalis Airways CEO under investigation for financial fraud. MSNBC. Whistleblower reveals culture of discrimination at Regalis. Wall Street Journal. SEC launches investigation into Regalis Airways. Charles froze as he watched the news unfold on TV. This is not a simple hack, CFO Martin said. This is organized warfare. Where's Ethan Ross? Charles yelled. He should be handling this. Martin replied. He's trying to control the media, but it's like using a bucket to bail water out of a tsunami. Charles received a call from Senator Gardner. Turn on Fox News, the senator said bluntly. On TV, Senator James Wheeler stood next to Leah Okoro. These allegations are deeply serious, Wheeler stated. If verified, this will be one of the most significant breaches of public trust in the history of aviation. My committee will conduct a thorough investigation. That traitor, Charles muttered as he watched Leah appear alongside the senator. Martin continued. The board is calling an emergency meeting. They want you there within 30 minutes. Meanwhile, Victor Grant was giving a live interview on television. I've witnessed systemic racism, not just ignored, but subtly encouraged. When I reported it, it was buried in bureaucracy. The incident with Mr. Cole is just the tip of the iceberg. Elsewhere in the city, Jamal had also gone public. His sincerity, youthful energy, and justified anger made him a social media hero. Jamal responded to an interview. I saw a respected business leader treated like a criminal, simply because he exists in a space others think he doesn't belong. When I tried to speak up inside, I was threatened and silenced. By noon, the hashtag Regalis Reckoning was trending across social media. Alongside it, hashtag FlyWhileBlack continued to gain traction. At Regalis's executive office, Sandra McKe was officially fired. She was escorted out by security, while photographers stood across the street, capturing the scene. I was just following the unwritten policy. Sandra protested. Before leaving, she blocked Erica in the staff lounge. Sandra, whispering. It was you. You leaked that video. Erica, calmly. I did the right thing. What you did to Mr. Cole, and many others, was wrong. It's always been wrong. Sandra shouted. You've ruined my life. Erica responded softly. No. You ruined your life. Every time you chose discrimination over dignity. Meanwhile, Helen Voss received a call from Leah Okoro. It's time, Ms. Voss, Leah said firmly. The board is looking for new leadership, someone not tied to Whitmore's scandal. And what makes you think they'll choose me? Helen asked. Because we've made sure they know you're the only one who consistently stood against unethical behavior. Leah continued. We've flagged your internal memos, warnings about safety, discrimination, financial irregularities. Helen took a deep breath. What happens if I agree to step up? Nathaniel will be ready to discuss Regalis's future with you, Leah replied. At the same time, during the board's emergency meeting, Charles Whitmore desperately tried to maintain control. This is a coordinated attack. Cole is using technology to wage a corporate war. Perfect, Charles grinned maliciously. Leak it to the press. Let's see how Cole reacts when he's hit back. Ethan hesitated. I'd advise against rushing it. We need to verify everything first. No, Charles cut him off. I want that news out now. He needs to be distracted. Ethan reluctantly nodded. Your call. Just hours later, an anonymous article appeared on a shady news site. Tech billionaire Nathaniel Cole accused of sexual harassment. But before the article could spread, Leah's team intervened. The result. The article was taken down. The news site issued an apology. Leaked emails revealed that Ethan Ross had paid to fabricate the story. Meanwhile, respected media outlets received real documents. Whitmore's offshore accounts. Money laundering evidence. Internal documents detailing safety violations and discrimination. In another meeting room, Victor Grant was summoned. This time, the person confronting him was Lisa Chen. I didn't do anything wrong, Victor said calmly. Your access card was used to review the video footage involving Cole multiple times at night, Lisa replied, handing him a folder. You also received a call from Leah Okoro, the head of security at Cole Dynamics. Furthermore, you filed 3 complaints about discriminatory security procedures. Victor remained silent. You're a risk to the company, Mr. Grant. But you could also become an asset. Tell us what Cole is planning. I don't know any plan. Then you're of no use to us. Meanwhile, in a private office in downtown, Helen Voss, the COO of Regalis, was having a secret meeting with Leah Okoro. This is highly unusual, Helen said. It's an unusual time, Leah responded calmly. I know you're talking about Nathaniel Cole, Helen said. No, Leah corrected, I'm talking about Regalis Airways. And the rot within. You know exactly what I'm referring to. Helen kept a neutral expression. I'm the COO of this company. Why should I help you destroy it? Because you're better than that, Leah replied. Because you've been trying to change Regalis from the inside for a decade, but Charles Whitmore has always stopped you. Because you've reported safety violations that were buried, discrimination complaints that were ignored, and financial anomalies that disappeared during audits. Helen's eyes widened. How do you know about those? Leah replied calmly. We have our sources. The question is, when the storm hits, and it will, where do you want to stand in history? Helen remained silent for a long moment before asking. What are you asking me to do? Nothing for now. Just be ready. When the evidence of Whitmore's wrongdoings is made public, people will look to you for leadership. Be ready to step into that role. As Leah left the meeting, her secure phone buzzed. Bank records accessed. Confirmed offshore accounts. Whitmore personally authorized transfers to shell companies in the Cayman Islands. At the same time, Nathaniel met with his mentor, Evelyn, in an office overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Everything is connected, Nathaniel explained, pointing to the tablet. The bank that denied my first loan now holds a significant stake in Regalis. The board members who mocked my MIT scholarship now sit on Regalis's advisory board. Evelyn looked at him intently. You've been tracking this for years. I've been tracking everything, Nathaniel replied. Information is power. I learned that early. Evelyn handed the tablet back to him. Do you remember the boy who wanted to use AI to save people from hunger? That boy has grown up, Nathaniel said quietly. And he understands that to change the world, good intentions aren't enough. You need leverage. And now you have leverage, Evelyn nodded. But be careful, while fighting the monster, don't let yourself become one. Nathaniel nodded in agreement. I remember your lessons. This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. When Nathaniel left Evelyn's office, his phone rang. It was Leah. We've got a problem. Ross is hunting down our people inside Regalis. Jamal Barnes and Victor Grant are being pressured. I anticipated this, Nathaniel replied calmly. Activate the countermeasures. Make sure they're protected. It's already in motion. At Regalis headquarters, Ethan Ross was reporting progress to Charles Whitmore. We've identified a few potential leaks and are containing them. Also, we've gathered some interesting information about Nathaniel Cole. Charles immediately perked up. Anything we can use against him? There's a sexual harassment claim from a former employee, settled 3 years ago. Jamal trembled. I didn't, don't accuse me, I haven't done anything wrong. Ethan coldly interrupted. Don't insult me by lying. We've seen the messages, the calls, tracked every step you've taken at the airport. Now you have two choices. You can be fired immediately, banned from the industry, and potentially face charges for corporate espionage. Or you can provide everything you know about Nathaniel Cole and keep working, but now, you'll report directly to me. We've patched all the vulnerabilities, one of the specialists said. A young analyst hesitated before speaking up. I think I have a lead. There's a pattern in these incidents. They started right after the issue with Nathaniel Cole. Just a coincidence, the director asked. Maybe not, she replied. Cole Dynamics built our booking and coordination systems 3 years ago. If they left a backdoor that we didn't know about. A tense silence filled the room. No way, the director said, though not entirely sure. Unless it was designed to only activate when needed. Meanwhile, Leah Okoro was leading the cybersecurity team from a secure location. Start Phase 2, she ordered. Focus on internal communications, emails, messages, notes about discriminatory behavior and regulatory violations. A specialist reported. We've infiltrated the private server that Charles Whitmore uses to bypass the main system. It's done. Meanwhile, Jamal was working at the airport when he overheard a conversation between two managers. They're looking for someone to take the fall. The board is putting pressure on Charles. Who's going to be targeted? Security Supervisor Grant. They said he should have handled Cole more gently. Jamal held his breath, pretending to sort through paperwork as he listened in. That's ridiculous, another manager said. Grant was just following protocol. Sandra is the one who caused the trouble. Doesn't matter. They need someone with power to blame. Sandra is too easy of a target, and that would basically admit discrimination. Jamal quickly texted Derek. They're planning to make Victor Grant the scapegoat for Cole. Can you confirm? Just a few minutes later, Derek replied. Confirmed. Just saw a draft of the announcement. They're suspending Grant for investigation. That night, as the media frenzy over Regalis Airways continued, a mysterious message appeared on all Regalis employee computer screens. This is just the beginning. The message vanished moments later, leaving employees stunned and the executive team in panic. At Regalis headquarters in Atlanta, Charles Whitmore was frantically calling. I don't care how much it costs. I want everything shut down now. Call Ethan Ross for me. Ethan Ross, the name only mentioned when all standard PR strategies had failed, arrived 3 hours later. A lean, polished man with cold eyes and a ruthless reputation. It's worse than you described, Ethan said, tossing a tablet onto Charles's desk. Stocks down 12%. Social media's in an uproar. The system's been completely hacked. Charles sighed in desperation. Can you handle it? I can manage, but I need full authority. You have it. Do whatever it takes. First, identify and neutralize any internal threats, anyone supporting Cole or who could leak information. Do you think there are spies? Ethan replied coldly. There's always one, especially in a crisis. The next morning, Jamal Barnes was stopped by airport security at the gate. Jamal Barnes? Yes, Jamal replied nervously. Please come with us. He was taken to a small meeting room, where Ethan Ross sat with files in hand. Sit down, Mr. Barnes. What's going on? Ethan looked up, his gaze as cold as steel. Messages to Derek Wells, interest in Nathaniel Cole's case, access to internal conversations. You think we weren't monitoring? Victor glanced around the empty office, then lowered his voice. What do you want, Ms. Okoro? It's about justice, Mr. Grant. And choices. Mr. Cole was very impressed with how you maintained professionalism yesterday, even when put in a difficult situation. I was just doing my job, Victor replied. Yes, but the question is, whose job are you doing? Following the procedure, or aiding in discrimination? Victor's jaw tightened. You're being unfair. I followed the procedure. Maybe. But you know it's wrong. I can hear it in your voice, even now. A long silence hung between them. Finally, Victor spoke. What does Mr. Cole want from me? Just what you're willing to give. Just the truth, when the time comes. After the call ended, Victor sat still, his eyes glued to the paused footage of the surveillance video, Nathaniel being treated unfairly. In his 20 years of working at the airport, he had witnessed hundreds of similar cases, where the procedure became an excuse for bias. He had always remained silent, adhering to the rules. But what was it all for? At a restaurant in downtown San Francisco, Nathaniel met an older woman exuding presence, her silver hair neatly styled, her eyes deep with experience. I saw the news, Evelyn Banks, the first black female CEO in tech, said. It takes me back to the past. Nathaniel nodded. Some things never change. But some things have, Evelyn countered, her gaze fixed on Nathaniel. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have had any means to fight back. Now, you have influence, you have power. I do, Nathaniel agreed. And I intend to use it. Evelyn took a sip of wine, thoughtfully. I taught you patience, Nathaniel. The long game always wins. I'm not acting impulsively, Nathaniel said. Really? This seems very personal. It is personal, Nathaniel admitted. But it's also bigger than me. Regalis Airways has maintained a system of discrimination while pretending to promote diversity. They're rotten from the inside out, financially, ethically, and operationally. And what will you do? Evelyn asked. Become the judge, the jury, and the executioner? Nathaniel's face remained calm. No. I will just create transparency. What happens next will be up to the market, the regulators, and the public to decide. Evelyn looked at Nathaniel for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You've thought this through. I really did teach you well. I remember everything you taught me, Nathaniel replied. True power doesn't lie in destruction, but in transformation. As they continued their dinner, Regalis's systems continued to collapse. Passengers flooded social media with complaints about cancelled flights, lost bookings, and payment errors. The hashtag Regalis chaos began trending alongside hashtag FlyWhileBlack. In Regalis's cybersecurity campaign room, the IT director slammed his fist on the table. How could this happen? In the IT operations room at Regalis headquarters, the director slammed his hand down on the desk. How could this happen? We've patched every vulnerability, sir, a young engineer spoke up. But it seems like the system is fighting against itself. What do you mean? The director asked. The errors are primarily happening on high-profit routes and with VIP customers. It's too precise to be random. In San Francisco, Nathaniel sat in the hotel operations room, monitoring the real-time data streaming across the screens. Leah's voice came through the secure video connection. Mirror campaign has been activated. We are collecting information on Regalis's internal leadership. The technical disruptions are significantly impacting revenue. What about our human resources? Nathaniel asked. Jamal Barnes, the airport intern, has been a great help. He's provided access to internal channels and may have other allies dissatisfied with the current leadership. What about Sandra McKe? Nathaniel asked next. Leah's face grew serious. She has numerous complaints from passengers in the past, all buried by management. The pattern is clear, she targets black passengers, especially in first class. What about Victor Grant? Nathaniel inquired. A former Air Force officer, 20 years in airport security, Leah replied. He's a decent man in a tough situation. Ethical, but constrained by the system. Contact him, discreetly, Nathaniel ordered. I want to know where he truly stands. At the same time, Jamal was working at the airport, feeling both anxious and determined. He received a message from Derek. Something strange is happening with the system. The boss is panicking. Jamal glanced around to make sure no one was watching, then quickly replied. It might be related to what happened yesterday. Keep me updated. Elsewhere at the airport, Victor Grant was reviewing the footage of Nathaniel's interaction with Sandra. He rewound it several times, his expression growing more tense. He realized it was worse than he remembered. Sandra's body language, her dismissive gaze, the way she escalated the issue unnecessarily, all of it was painfully clear. The office phone rang. Grant here. Mr. Grant, a smooth female voice said, I'm Leah Okoro, head of global security at Cole Dynamics. Can we talk privately? Victor froze. How do you have my number? That's not important. What matters is that we have a mutual acquaintance, Nathaniel Cole. Yes, this is personal, Nathaniel admitted. But it's also much bigger than me. Regalis Airways has allowed discrimination to continue while pretending to champion diversity. They're rotting from the core, financially, ethically, and operationally. And what will you be? Evelyn asked. A judge, a jury, and an executioner? Nathaniel remained calm. No. I'm just creating transparency. What happens next will be up to the market, regulators, and the public to decide. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. You've thought this through. You taught me well, Nathaniel said with a slight smile. Just remember one more thing I taught you, Evelyn said slowly. True power doesn't lie in destruction, but in the ability to transform. I remember, Nathaniel said firmly. This isn't about revenge. It's about establishing accountability. As their dinner continued, Regalis Airways systems remained in crisis. Customers flooded social media with complaints about cancelled flights, missing bookings, and multiple charges on their credit cards. The hashtag Regalis Chaos quickly went viral, alongside hashtag FlyWhileBlack, flying while black. It might be, Leah said, but you know that's wrong. I hear the hesitation in your voice, even now. A long silence followed. Finally, Victor spoke. What does Nathaniel want from me? Nothing more than what you're willing to give, Leah replied. Just the truth, when the time comes. The call ended. Victor sat still, his eyes locked on the paused footage on the screen, where Sandra was confronting Nathaniel with a look of pure disdain. At an upscale restaurant in San Francisco, Nathaniel met an older woman with her silver hair neatly styled in an elegant updo. It was Evelyn Banks, one of the first black female CEOs in the tech industry, who had broken barriers decades before Nathaniel entered the field. I saw the news, she said as they sat at their private table. It brings back a lot of memories. Nathaniel nodded. Some things never change. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. But some things do. 20 years ago, you wouldn't have had a chance to fight back. Now, you have resources, influence, and power. I do, Nathaniel agreed. And I intend to use them. Evelyn took a sip of wine. I taught you patience, Nathaniel. The long game is always the winning game. I'm not acting impulsively, Nathaniel replied. Are you sure? Evelyn stared deep into his eyes. This feels very personal. Leah continued her report. The digital insert is functioning exactly as designed, sophisticated enough to mimic a system glitch, but powerful enough to impact profits. Nathaniel nodded, satisfied. And the internal personnel, he asked. Leah responded. Jamal Barnes, the intern at the airport, has been incredibly helpful. He provided access to internal channels and helped identify potential allies within Regalis, those dissatisfied with the current leadership. Good, Nathaniel said. And Sandra McKe, he asked. Leah replied. She's a bad case. There have been multiple complaints from passengers over the years, all buried by management. She tends to target black passengers, especially in first class. What about Victor Grant? Nathaniel inquired. Leah answered. A former soldier, 20 years working airport security. According to records, he's a decent man in a tough system, ethical but limited by the system's constraints. Nathaniel thought for a moment before saying. Reach out to him discreetly. I want to know where he stands. As the conversation took place, Jamal was still working his shift, feeling both anxious and focused on his clear objective. His phone buzzed with a message from Derek. Something weird is happening with the system. The boss is freaking out. Does it have to do with what happened yesterday? Jamal looked around to make sure no one was paying attention, then replied. Maybe. Keep me updated. Meanwhile, passengers across the United States began experiencing strange issues with Regalis Airways' booking system. Flights would suddenly disappear from the database and reappear hours later. First-class customers found their tickets downgraded to economy class without any explanation. The payment system began rejecting valid credit cards, and sometimes, it charged multiple times for the same transaction. At Regalis's IT center in Dallas, engineers were working at full capacity to find the cause. "It's like the system is fighting against itself," the lead engineer told the increasingly frustrated director. "Every time we patch one issue, another one pops up. I've never seen anything like this." "Could it be a hack?" the director asked. "Possibly, but there's no clear sign of an intrusion. All security protocols are reporting normal." The engineer leaned back in his chair and sighed. "The strange thing is, these glitches aren't random. They're affecting high-profit routes and our most valuable customers. Too specific to be just a coincidence." In San Francisco, Nathaniel sat in a luxury hotel room, monitoring real-time data streaming across multiple screens. Leah's voice came through the secure video call. "Mira campaign is live. We've identified several vulnerabilities in Regalis's internal communications system. We're gathering information on Whitmore and his inner circle." Sandra McKe strode confidently through the staff lounge, savoring the attention from her colleagues, those who had seen the news. "I was just doing my duty," she said to the ticket-checking team. "Protecting the integrity of the first-class area. These days, we can't afford to be careless." Erica stood nearby, arms crossed. "What happened with that passenger was wrong, Sandra. And you know it." Sandra looked up from her coffee, narrowing her eyes. "What are you talking about? He had all the proper documentation. You stepped out of your position to block him from the first-class lounge. We all saw it." The room fell into complete silence as the other staff members listened to the conversation. Sandra's expression darkened. "You'd better be careful, Erica. Accusing a senior colleague could impact your future here." Before Erica could respond, their supervisor entered. "Sandra, I need you in the office immediately." Sandra's smug expression vanished. "What's going on, Jeff?" "Now, Sandra," he said sharply, with no room for argument. As Sandra followed him, her phone pinged with a notification. "All staff social media accounts will now be reviewed according to the new policy. Please refrain from commenting on the ongoing events related to Regalis Airways." Teresa Williams, the director of communications at Regalis, pressed her lips together in concern. "Sir, I don't think that statement is enough. The company's image is in serious trouble, and Mr. Cole has a huge influence in the tech industry." Charles rolled his eyes. "It's just a PR issue. Not the end of the world. Blame the staff, promise to do better, and move on. It's the same as it's always been." Teresa tried to convince him again. "I think we should reach out directly to Mr. Cole, offer a personal apology, and possibly compensate him." Charles interrupted, his voice sharp. "For a little inconvenience. He's still flying, isn't he? And this isn't the first time someone's accused us of racism. Those kinds of things blow over once the lawyers present a reasonable number." Teresa glanced over at Martin Reynolds, the CFO, who had been silent throughout the meeting. Martin cleared his throat softly. "Maybe we should consider." "Meeting's over," Charles declared as he stood up abruptly. "I've got a charity event. How you handle it is up to you. But keep it clean and cost-effective." As everyone began to file out, Teresa kept Martin back. "I'm really worried, Martin. This feels different." Martin gave a small nod. "I feel it too. But you know how Charles is, once he's made up his mind, it's hard to change it." He glanced down at his phone. There was an incoming call from the security department at Washington National Airport. "We'll expose every piece of it," Nathaniel said, his tone steady. As his flight landed in San Francisco, Nathaniel's phone buzzed incessantly with a barrage of notifications. The incident at Washington Airport had spread like wildfire across social media. Shaky videos showing him being denied service and escorted out by security were being shared at an alarming rate. One prominent post read, "This is what happens when you dare to fly first class as a black man." Another video compared Sandra McKe's professional portrait, where she smiled, to the moment she confronted Nathaniel. When Nathaniel climbed into the waiting car, major news outlets had already picked up the story. Breaking news: tech billionaire and AI pioneer Nathaniel Cole denied access to first-class lounge despite valid ticket. Regalis Airways facing racial discrimination accusations. Nathaniel watched the news report from the car, his expression calm as they passed through the streets of San Francisco. His phone rang. "Leah Okoro," she said briefly. "The news cycle has exploded," she reported. "Social media response is divided but leaning in your favor. Regalis's PR team is in a panic. And our other initiatives?" "Phase 1 is underway," Leah replied. "We are monitoring Regalis's systems right now." Nathaniel nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "Good. Keep me updated." Within hours, Regalis Airways released an official statement, posted across all social media platforms and sent to news outlets. Regalis Airways is fully committed to diversity, fairness, and inclusion at every level of our operations. The incident involving Mr. Cole is an isolated case and does not reflect our core values. We are conducting a thorough investigation and will take appropriate actions. We offer our sincere apologies to Mr. Cole and all our valued customers. At Regalis headquarters, CEO Charles Whitmore read the statement with indifference before tossing the tablet aside. "Done. It's taken care of," he declared to the crisis management team in his office. "Now, can we get back to real business?" Charles sighed dramatically. "Isn't this something PR should handle?" "Fine, connect me." A worried voice came through the phone. "Sir, a passenger named Nathaniel Cole was just denied access to the first-class lounge, despite having all the proper documents. The incident is already spreading on social media." Charles furrowed his brow. Nathaniel Cole. The name sounds familiar. He's the founder and CEO of Cole Dynamics, the AI company. "Oh, right, tech guy, the black guy, right?" "Yes, sir." Charles waved his hand dismissively, though no one could see. Standard response. Regalis Airways is committed to diversity and inclusion, blah blah. It's a one-off incident that doesn't reflect our values. You know what to say. "Sir, I think this needs to be handled more carefully. Mr. Cole is very influential." "Look," Charles interrupted. "Blame the staff, and move on. We've dealt with these situations before. No one cares about the outrage for long. It'll be forgotten by tomorrow." "Yes, sir," the PR officer responded, hesitantly. After hanging up, Charles turned to Martin. "See? Everything's a big deal now." Martin looked less certain. "Cole Dynamics isn't just any company. They developed an AI-based air traffic control system that's being implemented at major airports across the U.S. "Maybe," Charles shrugged. "Every tech company is the same. Too much money, not enough real-world experience. Don't worry about it." At the airport, Erica walked into the staff lounge, her face filled with concern. "Sandra, what happened with that passenger wasn't right," she said quietly. Sandra looked up from her coffee, narrowing her eyes. "Excuse me? What did you say?" "He had every right to enter the lounge. His documents were valid. You know that." "I was just following protocol," Sandra replied defensively. "He seemed suspicious." "Suspicious how?" Erica questioned. "Because he's black. He was dressed more respectfully than half the first-class passengers." Sandra's face turned cold. "People like him always play the victim, always demanding special treatment." "He didn't ask for anything special," Erica responded. "He just wanted to be treated fairly like anyone else." "You're still young," Sandra shook her head. "I've been in this job for 20 years. I know what trouble looks like." Erica stared at Sandra, disbelief in her eyes. "That's the problem. You see trouble even when there isn't any." She turned to leave, then stopped. "Do you know who he is?" "Nathaniel Cole." His company is worth billions. He's not someone you want to mess with. For the first time, Sandra's confidence faltered. I don't know that name. Well, you should now, Erica replied. Because I can guarantee the company's leadership knows exactly who he is. As Nathaniel's flight was about to take off, he received another message from Leah. Phase 1 is ready. Waiting for orders. Nathaniel looked out the window, watching the Regalis Airways plane waiting on the tarmac, its company logo glistening in the morning light. He quickly typed a short reply. While Jamal frantically texted Derek, similar conversations were rapidly spreading throughout the airport as news quickly circulated. Nathaniel Cole was being detained in security. Victor Grant, the head of security, looked visibly uncomfortable as he had to verify Nathaniel's documents again. Apologies for the inconvenience, Mr. Cole, he said formally. It seems there's been some misunderstanding. Nathaniel remained calm. Is that so? Victor looked at him briefly before turning away. Mr. Cole, misunderstanding means an unintentional error, Nathaniel said, his tone steady. But this seems deliberate. Victor didn't respond immediately. After 20 years of airport security service following his military career, he had seen recurring patterns, the random checks that were never truly random. He had seen successful black individuals scrutinized more closely when entering first-class areas. I can't comment on that, sir, Victor finally said. You don't need to, Nathaniel replied. Your silence speaks volumes. Victor coughed awkwardly. You're free to go, Mr. Cole. I'll personally escort you back to the first-class lounge. No need. I believe my flight is boarding soon, Nathaniel said, stepping out of the security room. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Mr. Cole, this is Jamal Barnes, Regalis intern. What happened to you is wrong. A lot of people here respect you. Nathaniel paused, considering, then typed a reply. Keep watching. The truth will reveal itself to those who are patient. Outside the terminal, in a sleek black SUV with tinted windows, a woman watched the airport exit with a cold, calculating gaze. Leah Okoro, head of global security for Cole Dynamics for the past 5 years, personally recruited by Nathaniel from the CIA. At 45, with short-cropped hair and a perpetually alert expression, she radiated the presence of someone who had faced humanity's darkest sides, and knew how to deal with it. Her phone buzzed. Okoro here, she answered swiftly. It's me, Nathaniel's voice came through clearly. Activate Raven Protocol. Full scale. Begin observation mode. Understood. Forces in position. Moving into place. I'm boarding soon. Leah nodded, though Nathaniel couldn't see. Initial intel on Regalis is concerning, she said, unlocking a secure tablet. A lot of accounts in Cayman and Switzerland. CEO Charles Whitmore, plays golf with half of the Senate. Jim narrowed his eyes at the screen. What does it do? It analyzes historical weather patterns and agricultural yield data to predict food shortages, Nathaniel explained. It could give relief organizations an early warning by months. Jim went silent for a moment. You're something else, you know that, he said, shaking his head in admiration. But you still need sleep. Even the brilliant need rest. For the first time, Nathaniel listened. He slept for 3 hours before starting his morning shift. That afternoon, when he came home, Jim was waiting with an envelope in hand. Special delivery, he said. Nathaniel opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a full-ride scholarship acceptance letter from MIT. That weekend, the Foster family threw a small party, the first celebration ever held for Nathaniel in his entire life. It should have been the beginning of a perfect success story. But it wasn't. 2 years later, 19-year-old Nathaniel sat in a cold meeting room in downtown Boston, facing 3 white men in expensive suits with overly practiced smiles. Your algorithm is very impressive, Mr. Cole, said Bradley Winston, a silver-haired venture capitalist. Not quite refined, but we see the potential. Thank you, Nathaniel replied, keeping his gaze steady, though discomfort simmered beneath the surface. He had spent 2 years perfecting a food crisis prediction system, something that could save thousands of lives. We're offering $50,000 to acquire the patent, the second man, Andrew Phillips, according to his business card, stated. Nathaniel frowned. Its potential value is in the millions. Winston laughed, as if Nathaniel had just told a joke. You're being overly optimistic. We're assuming all the risk here. You're just a student with an unproven idea. An idea I developed and tested on my own, Nathaniel countered. It works. The World Food Program has already shown interest. You've got passion, I'll give you that, Winston said mockingly. But you need to understand how the business world works. We have the networks, the infrastructure. You want to strip the humanitarian purpose from this application and sell it to hedge funds, Nathaniel interrupted, finally seeing it clearly. That's not what I made this for. The third man, Robert Davies, sighed in frustration. Let's be real, Mr. Cole. You're a sophomore with no connections and no financial backing. This is a generous offer. Nathaniel stood. Thank you for your time. Don't be foolish, Winston warned. Turn us down, and we'll develop a similar system ourselves. You'll get nothing. I'm willing to take that risk, Nathaniel said, gathering his prototypes and walking out. 6 months later, Winston's firm released a modified version of Nathaniel's system, and made millions. Nathaniel received nothing. Not even a footnote. It was the first betrayal, but not the last. And it taught Nathaniel a vital lesson: in the world of business, power is everything. And he didn't have it, yet. At 14, Nathaniel had already been through 4 foster homes, endured racial bullying, jealousy over his intelligence, and the feeling of being an outsider as the only black child in schools and neighborhoods predominantly filled with white people. He learned to keep his head down, observe, and speak only when necessary. At Marshall High School, his math teacher, Mr. Winters, noticed something extraordinary about the quiet student who solved calculus problems while his classmates struggled with quadratic equations. You're wasting your time here, Mr. Winters said after class. Nathaniel shrugged. I challenge myself. With what? Mr. Winters asked. After a brief hesitation, Nathaniel pulled out his newest notebook, he had dozens, and showed the teacher the code he was developing. Mr. Winters stared at the pages, his expression shifting from curiosity to astonishment. This is graduate-level work. What are you building? A financial market prediction model, Nathaniel murmured. Just a hobby. A hobby? Mr. Winters' eyes widened. Nathaniel, this is incredible. For the first time in years, Nathaniel allowed himself a small smile. By the time he was 17, Nathaniel worked 3 jobs, early mornings at a cafe before school, evenings at the library, and weekends washing dishes at a restaurant. Every dollar he earned went toward buying old computer parts, which he assembled in his small room at the foster home. You're going to burn yourself out, his foster father, Mr. Jim, warned when he saw Nathaniel still awake at 3 a.m., the light from the computer screen casting a glow on his determined face. I'm fine, Nathaniel replied, not taking his eyes off the screen. What's so important that it can't wait until morning? I'm finishing the app, Nathaniel hesitated. The MIT scholarship deadline is next week. I need this app to work. I know exactly who he is, Jamal replied. My thesis at Howard was based on his algorithm. He's a legend. And they treat him like he's a thief, Derek muttered in disbelief. As Jamal and Derek continued to discuss the shock they had just witnessed, far away, in a different time and space, the story of Nathaniel Cole, the tech pioneer, was unfolding, rooted in an incredibly humble past. 28 years ago, an 8-year-old boy named Nathaniel sat quietly on the steps of the Greenwood orphanage, clutching an old notebook filled with numbers and diagrams that even adults found difficult to understand. Social worker Ms. Patterson sat next to him, her hand gently resting on his shoulder. Your aunt isn't coming today, Nathaniel, she said softly. I'm sorry. Nathaniel nodded, not surprised. His aunt, the only family he had left after an accident that took his parents, had promised many times, but almost never kept her word. It's okay, he replied, continuing to write formulas in his notebook. I need to finish this. Ms. Patterson leaned over to look at the notebook. What are you working on? She asked. It's a system, Nathaniel explained with a seriousness far beyond his age. To predict patterns. If we can predict the pattern, we can prepare for what happens next. Ms. Patterson's heart ached. Of course, a genius child, who had lost everything at just 6 years old, obsessed with predicting the future, stopping disasters before they could strike. You're a special child, Nathaniel, she said softly. One day, everyone will know that. I want him removed from the lounge area, just to ensure safety. Nowadays, we have to be cautious, Sandra insisted, not backing down. Grant hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, but bound by protocol. Sir, I'm sorry, but would you mind coming with me while we resolve this? It's just a procedure. Nathaniel nodded immediately. Of course. As Victor began leading him away, Nathaniel noticed a young black intern in Regalis Airways uniform watching the scene in horror. The intern's name tag read, Jamal. He was typing furiously on his phone. Nathaniel followed Victor Grant toward the security office, maintaining his calm, every step radiating confidence. Once they were out of earshot from the lounge, he pulled out his phone and made a brief call. Cole here, he said softly. Activate Raven protocol. Observation mode is starting. He put his phone away just as Victor Grant opened the office door. Mr. Cole, It's fine, Mr. Grant, Nathaniel interrupted. I understand you're just doing your job. Victor looked as if he had just swallowed a cold stone. Sir, I know who you are. This shouldn't be happening. Nathaniel simply nodded. He had prepared for moments like this his whole life. This wasn't the first time, and sadly, it wouldn't be the last. But this time, there would be consequences. Meanwhile, in the terminal, Jamal Barnes, the young intern, was texting rapidly to his friend in IT. Dude, they just touched Nathaniel Cole. The Nathaniel Cole. The guy who invented half the tech systems at this airport. We're done for. Back in the IT staff lounge, Derek Wells nearly spit his coffee out when he read Jamal's message. He immediately called back. Are you messing with me? Derek snapped. Nathaniel Cole, the founder of Cole Dynamics. I'm not kidding, Jamal whispered into the phone, hiding behind a pillar. Sandra McKe and the security escorted him like he was a criminal. Just because he wanted to get into the first-class lounge. Do you know who he is? Derek asked angrily. His AI systems run half this airport. His security tech is used by the Pentagon. Just a few minutes later, a security supervisor arrived, a tall man with broad shoulders, salt and pepper hair, and a composed way of moving that hinted at military training. The name tag on his chest read, Victor Grant. What seems to be the issue here? Grant asked, his voice deep yet professional. This individual is attempting to access the first-class lounge with documents I believe to be fraudulent, Sandra said, emphasizing the words, this individual, with the same disdain she had used earlier when calling him, sir. Grant turned to Nathaniel, his eyes briefly showing a flicker of recognition before his expression returned to neutral. Sir, may I see your ID and boarding pass, please? Nathaniel handed them over without a word. Grant examined the documents carefully, then looked back at Sandra. Ms. McKe, everything is in order. Mr. Cole's documents are fully valid. Sandra's face tightened. But he doesn't. I mean, this all just seems suspicious. There are no flags or alerts in the system, Grant cut her off firmly. I need to verify something further, Sandra said, still carrying an air of suspicion. This situation doesn't sit right. Nathaniel calmly pulled out his wallet and retrieved a black American Express Centurion card, a prestigious credit card that most people had only heard rumors about. "Would this be enough to verify my identity?" he asked, his tone composed. Sandra's eyes widened slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. "Anyone can have that card," Sandra replied coldly. "I'm calling security." She turned away, picked up the phone, and dialed. Nathaniel didn't react. He had been in this situation too many times to be surprised. If he responded, he would only be labeled as the angry black man, a stereotype that always seemed to follow him. Instead, he stood aside, perfect posture, his expression unreadable. Nathaniel handed over his boarding pass and ID again. Sandra examined the card carefully, flipping it back and forth as if looking for a mistake. "Is there a problem?" Nathaniel asked softly. "I'm just doing my job, sir," Sandra replied, emphasizing the word, sir, in a way that felt like a subtle insult. "This first-class ticket seems unusual," she said, narrowing her eyes. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. "Unusual in what way?" "This seat is very expensive," Sandra continued, her gaze scanning the screen. "We need to be sure that passengers are in the correct seats." Several passengers around them slowed down, sensing the growing tension in the air. Nathaniel could feel the eyes on him, the silent judgments, the unspoken prejudices. "I assure you that my ticket is perfectly valid," Nathaniel responded, his voice calm, but there was a steel edge beneath it. Sandra scanned the ticket again, frowning as she looked at her computer screen. "This ticket might belong to someone else," she said, looking up. "Did you find it? Or did someone buy it for you?" The insinuation hung heavily in the air, insulting and accusatory. An older white man nearby, wearing a polo shirt and khaki pants, chuckled dismissively. "He might be lost," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "The economy seats are over there." He pointed toward the general boarding gate. Sandra didn't correct the man, nor did she defend her customer. Instead, she seemed emboldened by his words. "Here's your boarding pass, Mr. Cole," Sandra said, handing over the documents with a reluctance that she made no effort to hide. "First-class passengers may proceed through the priority security lane and access the first-class lounge. Boarding begins at 10:45. "Thank you." Nathaniel took the documents, noting how Sandra's eyes lingered on him as he walked away. The TSA security screening went as expected, except for the all-too-familiar, random, selection for additional screening. It happened nearly every time he flew. He didn't complain. His expression remained neutral, though the sting of being singled out again never really dulled. 20 minutes later, Nathaniel approached the entrance to the Regalis Airways first-class lounge. A different staff member, a young white man with blonde hair, stood at the podium and smiled warmly as Nathaniel approached. "Good morning, sir. May I see your boarding pass and ID, please?" Nathaniel reached for his documents, but before he could present them, Sandra suddenly appeared behind the podium, slightly out of breath as if she had rushed to get there. "I'll handle this one, Ryan," she said, nodding curtly toward the younger employee. Ryan looked confused but stepped back without question. The first-class check-in counter was completely empty. Nathaniel walked up to the counter where two employees were chatting. The younger one, wearing a name tag that read Erica, smiled reflexively. But the older one, Sandra McKe, abruptly stopped mid-sentence and looked Nathaniel over with a scrutinizing gaze. "Good morning," Nathaniel said, handing over his ID and platinum loyalty card. "Flying with Regalis Airways to San Francisco, 11:30 flight." Sandra took the documents with a forced smile. "How are you today, sir?" Her voice paused just slightly before the word, sir, subtle, yet unmistakable. "I'm fine, thank you," Nathaniel replied, holding her gaze, his tone calm and measured. Sandra began typing on the keyboard with an unnecessary force. "Business or leisure?" she asked, still not looking up. "Business." "Guess so." She glanced at the ID, then looked back at him, as if verifying whether the photo was really him. Cole. Nathaniel Cole. That's right. Sandra leaned toward Erica and whispered something. Erica's eyes widened briefly, then quickly regained her composure. Nathaniel overheard a few fragments. That startup guy, probably just lucky to have some money. Nathaniel had built a billion-dollar AI empire from scratch, but he had long since grown accustomed to being dismissed as that startup guy. It was just another part of the background noise he had learned to live with throughout his life. The sleek black Bentley glided silently toward the departure terminal at Washington National Airport, almost making no sound at all. As the driver stepped out to open the back door, Nathaniel Cole grabbed his leather briefcase and adjusted the platinum cufflink, the gift he had given himself after closing his first billion-dollar deal. "Do you need help with your luggage, Mr. Cole?" the driver asked, standing perfectly at attention. Nathaniel shook his head. "Just carry-on luggage, James. I'm traveling light these days." He stepped onto the sidewalk, his custom-tailored Tom Ford suit accentuating his athletic build. At 42, Nathaniel exuded the quiet confidence of a man who truly knew his worth. "Very well, sir. Do you need me to pick you up when you return?" "I'll send the information after I land in San Francisco." Nathaniel pulled his carry-on and added, "James, take the rest of the day off." "That's an order." The driver smiled. "Thank you, sir." As Nathaniel entered the terminal, he immediately felt the familiar shift in energy, a shift that always occurred when he entered spaces not designed for people who looked like him. Brief glances from passengers glued to their phones. A security guard standing a bit straighter as he passed by. A white woman clutching her purse tighter. Nathaniel noticed all of this, but his face remained calm. These moments had become all too familiar, like the irritating but predictable background music of his life. It took Sandra McKe only a few seconds to conclude that Nathaniel Cole didn't belong in the first-class lounge. Despite his tailored suit and calm demeanor, all she saw was the color of his skin, something she believed didn't fit in here. "Security," she whispered, her eyes narrowing with suspicion and calculation. What she couldn't see was the empire Nathaniel had built from scratch, an empire worth billions of dollars. As security escorted him out, other passengers averted their eyes, avoiding looking at him. All except for Jamal, the young boy who immediately recognized the technology symbol on Nathaniel's watch. His face showed no emotion as he made a brief call, "Activate observation mode." Raven. In those words, the fate of Regalis Airlines was sealed. They thought they were simply removing an unwanted passenger, but instead, they unknowingly sparked a battle with a man who had spent his entire life preparing for this moment, when discrimination would finally face the unstoppable force of power, strategy, and justice. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow's special episode is definitely one you won't want to miss.